Okay guys, today we shall see about HTML to JSP database software communication. So by using JSP file name and its URL pattern as action URL, which is embedded into the HTML form page tag, or you can use the href tag, href attributes of a action tag. Okay, we can refer and perform a HTML to JSP communications. Okay, and this is HTML to JSP communication. Now I wish to perform JSP to JSP to database communication. So to perform JSP to JDBC communication, I need to take the help of JSP to database communication. I need to take the help of JDBC's driver class. Okay. So we are going to see these applications. So here is my browser window. Here is my Tomcat server, and in the Tomcat server, I have deployed the application whose name is JSPDBComApp. And this COM app contains one JSP web page which is responsible to execute which is responsible to perform the received request parameter values and store those request parameter values into database software, as well as it is responsible to get the database values and show into the browser windows. Okay. So on the browser window, I have formed, once you give the request to the server, you will get the input.html. So input.html, once the user enters the values into that input.html in the form of, let me add the values. Suppose if I'm entering the values, I enter the number called 111. Next, I enter the name like Ganesha, and I enter the address. He is in Sambhaji Nagar or Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar. Okay? I think I should increase the space here. Yes. Fine. Okay. So once you click on the register button, what happens? The request will go to the server window. Request will go to the server. So let me add that request. So before going to create the request in the server window, let me create a database first of all. You can use this Oracle here, or you can use the MySQL, or you can use the PostgreSQL. What you need to change? You need to change the database, and you need to change only a driver jar and driver class name. Just these three things will change. Okay. Remaining all the operations are same. Already these scenes were seen in the these operations, these processes were seen in the JDBC operations. So let me add here. What should I add here? This is my student database table. We can use any other also. Student database table. So you can add here the student database table. So student database table. Let me increase the font. Okay, fine. Student DB table, and in this DB table, I have these fields: student number, student name, and student address. Okay, so let me add here SNO, student name. Okay, SNO, yes name, yes address. Okay, even you can have different fields also. You can add different fields also, no matter. And here, what are the values you add that will be stored, and that will be stored into my database table. Okay, suppose I'm writing here 111. Okay, next Ganesha and Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar. Okay guys, fine. So this is the operations. So once you perform the operations, the record will be stored into my database table. Okay. So this is the database table. What happens? So first time, when you click on register button, otherwise I will bring the mouse here. Otherwise I will use different colors. Which color should I use? Okay, I'll use the brown color for flow, understand the flow of application. So use once you give the request to the web application, web application will generate input welcome page. That the welcome page is input.html, and I have deployed JSPDBComApp into my Tomcat server, which contains a JSP page whose name is, you can give the any name, what is the name you can call. Maybe I'm giving the DBJSP, database JSP program. Okay, or database JSP.JSP. Don't get confused. dbJSP.JSP. I give the two times JSP. Don't get confused with respect to this one. So dbJSP.JSP. Okay, fine. Now I got my applications, I got my server, and I'll get the browser window. So once you give the request to the server, once you give the request to Tomcat server, the Tomcat server will process that your application. It will load the welcome file and send the response to the browser window as input.html. User will fill the details in student in a input.html as a form page. As a form page, it contains student number, student name, student address. Once you click on register button, okay, the register button request will be sent to the server. Actually, I should. Yes. Will be sent to the server. Server will track that request. Server will track that request. Tomcat server. Okay. Tomcat server. Once the Tomcat server track the request, the Tomcat server will accept that request and searches for appropriate web context root name. That is your application name. Your application name, I have configured the db.jsp. Same request will be processed by whom? Your db.jsp. db.jsp contains the logic to interact with the database software. Okay. Database software. db.jsp.jsp contains the logic to get the request parameter values, which contains student number, student name, and address. Okay, process that student number, student name, and address. If necessary, typecast those values into roll number to student number to integer format. Remaining all are the strings because student address and student name and student address are in string format. Load the JDBC driver class name. Okay. Call the prepared statements or simple statement based on the requirements. Interacts with the database software. Database software will searches for appropriate tables that you have called. Here in my case, I have the student database table. Okay. Here I am using student SNO is a number or integer you can call. Student name as a string varchar and student address is a varchar. Your record will be inserted into database software. Response will be sent back to again. Your raw applications of a JSP web page. Okay, in a JSP web page will receive the response. Okay, dbjsp.jsp will receive the response. Once it receives the response, same response will be sent back to whom? Your server. Server will trap that request and it's again sent back to your browser window. Let me add one more browser window here. Whatever the response you are generating, that response again goes back to browser window. So this is my response. Okay, dynamic view applications. So let me add here. Let me add the name called registration succeeded or registration failed. So let me add the label here. If it is success, registration successful or failed. You will get the response or failed. If it is successful, we will show the same response, okay, in the form of table like SNO, SNAME, and address. Okay. I'll use the same field. Next, 111 Ganesha, and here Chhatrapati Sambhaji. Okay, and other fields 222 if other students are inserted. Understood? Is it clear? Next, same response comes to browser window as a dynamic view application. Fine. Let me add the flow of execution. So this is for if it is successful, you will get the response as a successful. Okay. Next up, whenever I want to get the details, same communication. Now here I will add the what I'll do. Once you enter the any student number, search that student number. If I what 111, 222, 333, 344. What are the row numbers you enter? Once you click on the student numbers, get the student details. Again, response goes to server. Response goes to server. Server will track that response. Sorry, server will track that request. That request will be forwarded to the appropriate web application. Web application will search for appropriate web resource program. That is in my case dbjsp.jsp. dbjsp.jsp will take the request or get parameter. Now in this case, I'm searching the student number. That is 111. Okay. So this triple one value will be returned from the database software. Okay. From the database software, and same response sent back to browser window. So rather I will call here. This is your what? This is your what? Get student details response. First is successful at the register, and second is student details. Is it clear? This is the flow of execution. Clear? समझ लो क्या? Nothing great. This operation we are going to do. One is searching, one is inserting. Okay. Similarly, you can add one more button, delete. You can add one more button, update. The operation we did in the JDBC, same operations, but now HTML to JSP and database software. So flow of execution. Fine. So let me create the web application now. Now let me create the deployment directory structures. DDS, deployment directory structure. So what is the name I give here? JSPDBComApp. JSPDBComApp. Okay, this is my operation name. Under this, what I'll do? So I will add the input.html. Next, I will add what is my JSP page name? dbjsp.jsp. Here I will add one directory whose name is webinf. Under this webinf, I will add otherwise leave it. Here I'll add web.xml. If you use IDE, you need not to create these number of folders, these number of directory structures. Directly you can work with the directly once you create the web application in NetBeans or Eclipse or MyEclipse or IntelliJ, you will get this structure automatically. Next is lib folder. No, first I'll add the classes, or you can add lib also. Okay. In the lib folder, I will add jars, star.jars. If I'm working with Oracle, JDBC star cut over. Here I'm doing star. JDBC 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. Dot jar for Oracle database software. Okay. If I'm working with the MySQL, you can add or MySQL connector. MySQL hyphen connector dot jar for whom? MySQL. Okay. You can add for PostgreSQL. Similarly, you can add for PostgreSQL also. Understood? Okay. Next up, let me add here classes folder. Classes, I don't need to add classes. It's empty. Either you add or don't add. This is not required. Understood? Clear? Okay. Now Alt F new. Should I go with the creating HTML page? HTML JSP. Shall we? Correct, Jaka? Huh? And in this application, we'll use all the three lifecycle convenience methods. JSP lifecycle convenience method, JSP init, JSP destroy, JSP service. No, JSP service is already it's underscore JSP service is a already lifecycle method. We'll use all the methods. Okay. Now, what I'm going to write JSP init, I will write a database initialization logic. Possible? Possible or not? I can write in service also. I can write in service also, but that will create each time a new object. Okay. So guys, we start working with the now input.html. So I'll copy this file name, copy, file, new, HTML page. Okay. I don't need this all this stuff. You can add here. If you wish to add, you can add register page. I know this. I don't need this doc type. I don't need this metadata. You can add the keywords if you add. Okay. In this body, in the body, you can add all your operations. So here I'm going to add the form tag. Can I find anywhere form tag here? Guys, there are some commands, inbuilt commands. We need not to type manually. We'll get all these commands automatically. Let me search somewhere. It is available itself. Script, applets, objects, form tag. I got form tag. Okay. And in the form tag, even I can add the what I can call directly without writing the code. I can able to add remaining tag also. Here action. If you use post, your URL pattern will not be visible and data will be in hidden mode. Okay. And if you use getter, data will be visible. And here you have to add what? My JSP URL. Shall we configure the file JSP file in a your application, or do you expect to give the file name here itself? What do you wish to see? Configure दोन्ही करायचं का? But ठीक आहे. First I will use the URL and next I will remove. Okay. So now what is my JSP page name? So I will use my JSP page name. Okay, this is DBJSP. This is my DBJSP. Either you can use DBJSP, okay, DBJSP.jsp, directly configure here, or you can configure that DBJSP.jsp in a web.xml file, generate the URL pattern, give that URL pattern to here. Understood? Understood? So I'm giving the URL code. You can use any URL, whatever the URL you create. So DB URL. Now let me add the name. Let me keep everything in center so that you will get the idea. Center. Okay, fine. So student roll number. I need input type. Directly I can add input type here also. So search for input type, guys. Can you find anywhere? Applet, form control. What do you want? I want text box. Okay, and its name is text box student number. Text box student number. So break student name. Okay. Next, I'll add here text box student name, TS name. Okay. Next up, student address. So here, text box students address or add. Clear? So input type text name, address, TS add, TS name, and TS student number. Now I need buttons. I need buttons. One is by using submit, and one is by using get student details. Get student details. So you can use the form controls. So button, input type button. No, input type submit. Okay, give the value. What do you want to give the value? You want to tell the register. You want to tell insert data. What is the name you want? Wish to you can give the value. So I'm giving the name called register. Okay, I'm using the name called register. Okay, fine. On click, I don't want to apply any events or listener here. Okay, I'm not going to apply any events or listener for form validation. So here I will apply the field called what? Required required true. If you make it true, now you will feel this is just a validation. And what is the name I give here? What is the form name I meant? Yes, input.html, right? So I'll save this form name as a. First, let me create a folder. Let me create a folder. Control C, copy. Where do I create a folder? Should I create here itself? Day 22. Okay. I'll copy and paste dbcom JSP. Created. Next up. Here I need a folder called webinf. Right? Right? Webinf. Under the webinf, I need two folders. One is classes. Either you add the classes or don't add. No, because I'm not going to use servlets. So if I'm not going to use servlet, then won't. Then there is no need of generating .class files. Okay, obviously I'm not generating a .class files. So either you keep the .classes folder or don't keep classes folder. It's not mandatory. But I need lib. I need a lib. In this lib file, I will add the jar files. Understood? Okay. Now, beside the webinf, I will create web.xml file. I will create input.html. Sorry, under the webinf, I will add the web.xml file, and beside the webinf, I will create a dbjsp.jsp and input.html. Okay. And here, let me save this file. File, save, dbjsp. I will add here input. Okay. Beside to webinf. Automatically HTML. Okay. Save. Add HTML automatically. Added up. So control B. Is it there? So let me use some break tag because it's coming to top. Break. Okay, at the center. Next, I'll use some break tag here. Some more break tag. One is enough. Okay. And next, I will create one more. What is that? As I told you earlier, I'm going to use submit buttons, action, and also I'm going to use anchor also. Okay. So what I'll do, I will add here anchor tag. This is anchor tag. This is my anchor tag. Huh? No. Wait. No. I'll do. Even if you add within inside form tag, no use. So here href, I'll give the href. What is the URL? URL I give here? DB URL. So here is my DB URL. Okay. And I need to send the parameters. I have to send the parameters. So the parameter is maybe, okay, you give any name. This one. And if it is a link. Okay. Don't worry, I'll process this query string. I'll process this query string. If it is a link, I'm giving the hint to the browser window. If it is a link, give the student details. If it is not a link, don't give the student details. Okay, fine. Now here I'm giving the label called get all the student details. Get all the student details. Okay, and here I will add some more break tag. Control V. Fine. Look at here. It is going. The response is going back. Fine. Now submit. Why the true is not working? This field is required. Understood? Suppose if I enter 111. Next, second field is required. If I enter DDDD. Third field is required. So that's what form validation. Just simple. I did nothing. I applied one extra attribute. Required true. This is HTML5 property. The field should not be empty. The field should not be empty. Text box should not be empty. Fine. This is about my HTML. Now next, the same way, let me create a web.xml file and JSP. Okay. Now let me use file new. Now in this case, why I'm using DB URL? I'm using URL pattern. Huh? I'm using URL pattern. Right here. So definitely I had to configure JSP, dbjsp.jsp in where? In my web.xml file. So file, new, others, XML. Okay. So web app, web hyphen app. So let me save, file, save. Where should I save? In my JSPDBComApp, beside to WebINF or under the WebINF? Under the WebINF. Web.xml. Okay. Beside to classes and lib. Beside to classes and lib. Right now? Saved. Now let's create all the tags, solids and all the stuff. We can use the solid name. So add a solid name. If time permits, if time permits, I will finish this application by evening itself. Okay. Close solid name. Okay. Next solid class. Sorry. काय करतो मी? solid name. So give the solid name. I'm using same DBJSP. Okay, fine. Solid class. Right here. Right here. Solid name. You can use the same file name, no matter. Here you can use any other name also. If you're not happy, okay, chala. DBJSP. Now at least now you'll differentiate. At least now you'll differentiate now. Next add URL button, URL mapping. URL hyphen mapping. Let me close URL mapping. URL mapping. Let me use the solid name. Solid name. Next, let me add here URL pattern. URL pattern. Let me close this URL pattern. What is the URL we give here? What was the URL we supplied in the form tag? DB URL. So let me pass the DB URL here. Got it? Understood? Fine. Now, even I can configure. Okay, till today you are not completed total solids. So I think you are in the first 20% only. We can configure a database property into web.xml file also. Okay, we can configure database property in a XML file. In this case, web.xml file. We can configure in a properties file. Already we have seen in JDBC itself. We can configure in text files. Okay. Now here I used to configure. Here I used to configure. So where I used to configure? I'll configure here within the solid. For this solid, I'll configure all the init parameters. All the init parameters. So 9:59 I'll cover this evening. I'll cover this evening. तुमचा संध्याकाळी सॉलिड प्रॉब्ली होणार नाही. तर मला कम्प्लीट करायचं आहे. मोठा ऍप्लिकेशन इकडे उद्या सकाळी परत नाही झाला. So I'll get the time at I'll get enough time at the evening time, more than 2 hours. So I'll try to cover. Okay. Okay. So let me pause and stop. So here I will add this. Here I will add here all the database properties, username, password, connection strings. Okay. These three parameters I will configure here by using the parameter called init parameters. Init parameters. So control F. I will add now. Fine.